Good morning. My name is Marla Wolflake. I'm the administrative coordinator for the Red Symbols Lodge. And according to protocol, I'd like to present this tobacco to our elder Kerrie Moore uh, for joining us, presenting it to her virtually for um, for her time today for the Sage Picking webinar. Thank you, Kerrie.
Thank you. Okay, I'm using my earphones and sometimes that works with the better connection. I don't know. Let's just hope. Um, if it gets too bad, we'll have to figure out something else. I don't know. It might have to happen when I get home. But anyway, let's try. Now I'm going to come down into my spirit because we've had all of this technology that's bringing us right up into our heads. And I was talking about the fact that we have to be respectful to Mother Earth. And so everything that we do, everything we take from Mother Earth, we must offer respect. So I thank you, Marla, for offering that tobacco to me
You're
virtually.
welcome.
And that tobacco is how we begin within our nations here in this territory. Remember that every nation, every territory has their own medicines depending on where they're coming from. Here in this territory, we use specific medicines. Up here where I am at in the northern Saskatchewan area, we use similar medicines, but we also use additional medicines. So we are using sage today. Sage is how we begin ceremony. Sage is how we begin everything. And that little sage plant is offering itself to us to bring about respect between us. If we do not begin in a good way, the plants won't understand what we need and they can't offer us the ability to be in our spirit. So this is how we begin. And I'm going to relay the story my grandmother told me. And then she told this story that really was about her own experiences. And the story is taught with some Christian, some Cree teachings within it. And I teach it exactly the way she taught me, because in our protocol, we can't add, change, delete anything. We must impart it exactly in the same way as we were taught, including our songs and all of those pieces. So I will tell you this story, which might help you understand why we choose to pick sage the way that we do, pick all medicines, because this story really is about the respect we have for Mother Earth and the respect we have for ourselves and how we're just another species on Mother Earth. We're not separate from Mother Earth. We aren't better than Mother Earth. We are all equal. And hopefully this story will help you understand that. So long ago, Creator created the universe. And in that universe, he created the stars and the moon and the sun and the plants and the animals and the trees and Mother Earth. And he brought everyone together and he set them in a circle so they could all look at each other, so that they would be responsible and accountable to each other. And Creator said to all of those things in the universe, I will give you gifts, and these gifts will help you survive in the world. And these gifts will help you help each other. And Creator also gave all of those things in the universe values, the values of love, kindness, compassion, respect, honesty, accountability, and responsibility. And those are the 7 Cree grandmother teachings. And of course, you will hear grandfather teachings. You will hear children's teachings and TP teachings. But those teachings that you hear of the values are what are important. And so when Creator created all of these things, he told the universe that he was going to bring another species here. And that species would really need everything on Mother Earth. And everything on Mother Earth knew who they were. They didn't have to be reminded. So the bears know how to be bears. The trees know how to be trees. The water knows how to be water. Everything knows who they are. The only species on earth that forget who they are the human beings. And so Creator knew that this was a journey for us to learn to be the best human beings we could be and to learn how to get along with the universe. And in getting along with the universe, we could get along with each other. And so Creator brought us, human beings, to the earth to live amongst Mother Earth and the universe and to learn from her. And one of those little plants that was there when Creator was offering those gifts was the tobacco plant. And the little tobacco plant said to Creator and all of those around him, I will offer myself to the two-leggeds so that they can pray with me and they can bring everything into that place of spirit, which is where they will remember who they are. And so offering tobacco is the first protocol that we offer to people that we want to have knowledge from, including the plants and the animals and everything in the universe. So before we pick any medicines or gather water or dig those beautiful grandfathers or whatever it might be that we are doing on Mother Earth, we take that tobacco and we hold it up and we offer it to that little plant. And we say, thank you. I ask that you come with me so that you might help my people. And that little plant was there when all of the plants and the animals were there when that little plant offered himself to us. And so anything on Mother Earth, when you offer it in that respectful way, you come down into your spirit, you get out of your head. Thank you. And when you do that, that little plant knows who you are. She can't see you when you're in your head. She doesn't know what you want when you're in your head. She wants you to be in your spirit. And your spirit is deep within your belly button, where you're attached to your mothers when you're born. My grandmother used to say, there is a reason why we are attached to our grandmothers, our mothers, in the middle of our body. That's so we can think in the middle of our body, not up in our head. So before we do anything, before we begin ceremony, before we have that conversation with people, before we try to figure out what we're going to do that day, we take that deep breath and we blow it out. And when we do that, we are in our spirit. So spirit is not a religious place. Spirit is an innate place that all human beings have deep within their belly button. And we forget who we are. When we forget who we are, we go up into our head and we become angry, depressed, anxious, just like COVID right now. Remember that, because we're not in spirit. The fear of the unknown puts us up into our head. We need to be in our spirit when we're gathering medicines. We need to be in our spirit when we're talking to our children. We need to be in spirit when we are trying to find peace and hope and purpose in our lives. All of those things you find deep within your belly button, where your spirit is, not in your head. So when we smudge at the beginning of everything, at the beginning of the day, when we pray, when we begin school every day, when we have difficult things to face every day, we take that time to put that tobacco down first and gather that medicine. So the medicine that we are using is sage, and sage is something that we pick, and it stays kind of greenish blue literally all year long, even under the snow. And this territory, that is what we begin with. This is how we create respect. So when we put that tobacco down by that beautiful sage plant, we ask her to come with us. And when we do it with tobacco, she relaxes too. She goes into her spirit because all things have spirit. And she goes, ah, it's the two-leggeds. I'm happy to help you. And she will give you her love and her kindness and her medicine. If you don't begin that way, you're not going to get that beautiful medicine. You're not going to get her love because she goes into trauma too, just like human beings. If she doesn't understand, if you don't treat her with respect. So all things, we begin with putting that tobacco down. We never, ever pick it by the roots. If you pick something by the roots, it will die. If we're picking root medicine, we uncover the root and only take a tiny bit of that root, but we still offer that tobacco. Remember, wherever we are picking, we offer that tobacco. We offer our love and our kindness. And when we do that, we're going to get the love and kindness back. That's the reciprocity. And so be careful when you are picking. We only take what we need. And we only take the actual medicine on the top of the plant. So we usually twist it off. I hold on to the bottom of the plant and I twist off the top so the plant stays in the ground. And we bring stems home, and I don't have any with me today, that are about this long. And all of the leaves on that stem, which look like this, we actually bless everything. We thank it, we smudge it, and we say thank you for helping us. Now, some roots will come with you because they're ready to come with you. So don't be alarmed. But we don't take anything from the earth without offering that tobacco first. So once we have picked the medicines that we need to pick, we bless them. We wrap them up in a cloth or in a blanket because we're taking them from their families. We carry them like babies. They become in our care. So we carry them close to us like this, wrapped in a blanket. And we lay it all out on Mother Earth and we smudge it all. And we say, we thank you truly for the medicine that you're offering us. And then we bring it back to our homes. And you can leave it there to dry. You don't put it in plastic. I just lay it down on a table and I spread it out and it dries very quickly. Some people will take little groups and hang them. It doesn't matter how you do that, but you don't need very much sage when you're going to smudge. So I'm going to light this beautiful smudge and I'm going to show you how you smudge. Please remember that our words are just our words. It's how we say those words that are important. So if I were to say to you, okay, everybody, we're going to pray today. Now pray, da, 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 da. What's happening is I'm in my head. I'm not in my spirit. And when I'm not in my spirit, I'm not going to feel what I'm saying. So if you want to truly do this in the right way, you need to take that deep breath. And when you say that prayer to yourself or out loud, and even if you don't pray, even if you say something nice to yourself, like, I just want this day to be beautiful, thank you. That's all you have to do. You don't have to pray. Just offer something loving to Mother Earth, to yourself, to your family. You do it in any way you can, but you can't do it from up here. You have to do it from deep within your spirit. That is where you carry your values. Remember that. Love, kindness, respect, honesty, compassion, accountability, responsibility. You do not carry anger, anxiety, and depression in your spirit. Remember that. So part of all of this, gathering medicine so that we can help those families and our families too, and we use a lot of it, is that we must pick it in the right way. And everything else that we pick, we must pick in the right way. Or it won't be there next year. It won't offer us what we need because we haven't offered it what it needs. So the lesson of picking medicine is not that, oh, I can pick it because it's there, or I can kill that animal because it's there. The lesson is that all of those things there on Mother Earth are there to help us stay in our spirit. So we remember who we are. The human beings carry all of the values in the world. We carry all of them, but we carry them in our spirit, not in our head. We're going to go in our spirit first and then go into our head so we can think through things. But we must begin in spirit so that we don't forget who we are. And of course, we see many people at this point forgetting who they are. When you become anxious, or depressed, you have forgotten who you are because that is not who you are. Remember that. So I'm going to light this sage and I'm going to do a prayer for all of us and wish you well in your picking and in your life. And hopefully we will meet face to face again one day. And while I'm smudging, virtually, you can just reach out to me because I'm going to send all my love, all my kindness, all my compassion to all of you because I'm going to stay in my spirit. So we roll it in a ball, just the leaves, and we light it, and it smells so beautiful. I'm going to put it over my head and down my body now because I want to get rid of everything that is not of value to me. So that anxiety and that depression and that pain I might feel in my body, I want to get rid of all of that because it's of no value to me. It's holding me back from my gifts because all of us have been given gifts too, and every gift is just as good as the next. I only have my gifts. I don't have every gift. And I look to other people to help me, just like today in this technology. I thank you, Laura and Keita and Marla and everybody who was trying to help me through this because Keita especially knows how I feel about technology. But technology is very much a part of who we are now. So I appreciate the support and the help that I get. So smudge yourself. And if you have glasses, you're going to smudge them too because they help you see. Take a breath. Creator, giver of all life, grandmothers and grandfathers of all four directions, Mother Earth. Indisieka som wakanmihi na kakaskweo. Nitan ko muksanaki. We are truly grateful for this beautiful day, Creator. We're truly grateful, Creator, for Mother Earth. We're truly grateful for the ability to do your work, Creator. We're truly grateful for our families and our friends and our animals. We ask, Creator, that you guide us carefully, protect us. We know that we never know what is going to happen out there, but we ask, Creator, that no matter where we may be, that you keep us safe and our families safe. We ask, Creator, that you will help us find the resources and supports that we need to learn and to get the help that we need in our lives, to help us find good friends, help us with those things that are really holding us back, help us to realize that we're just as good as everyone else, help us realize that we have a purpose, we're here for a reason too. Help our families, Creator. that they may always be safe and happy, especially the children. And at this time when we're going back to school, we ask that we can all be safe and that we can figure this out. And those little children, especially, will have the ability to hug again because they need that touch so desperately. We ask, Creator, that you watch over those people that may be sick. They will feel stronger today. And those people in the world that think there is no hope, we ask, Creator, that they will feel our love and kindness, and that they will have more hope in the future. We ask for our leaders, Creator, that they come from that compassion and that love, not just from that thinking brain, but from those deep values of the human beings, so that they can help to keep us safe, provide the supports that we may need to help those people that are really in need, and that they will never be forgotten. Help the University of Calgary and the City of Calgary and all of those places that we may visit, that we will always be safe, Creator. Watch over us this year. Help us find that vaccine that will help us. Help us let go of our fear, Creator, because life is there's so much beauty in life. And we ask that we are able to find the beauty in life every day. We are truly grateful, Creator. Miigwech. Hi, hi, hi. Amen. So thank you, everyone. Hopefully that explains how you pick. And I know that there may be questions. And perhaps, Laura, are you going to, I don't know how we're going to do this. I can,
what I can do, Kerrie, is I'll allow people to unmute themselves. So if you do have a question, you can go ahead and put your hand up in the participant panel. And I'll call on you and you can ask your question, and Kerrie can answer as well. So I'll go ahead and I'll allow you to unmute yourself. If you do have a question, go ahead and put your hand up, or feel free to raise your hand in the panel. And if you do have any questions, I'll call on you. We did have some in the registration, so I can get the ball rolling, but I do see that Gretchen has a question here. So Gretchen, you can go ahead and ask. Oh, and I believe, let me know if you can unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi, Gretchen.
Hi. Good morning, Kerrie. That was wonderful. You're so special. I feel a real forgiveness from you.
Oh.
My question, I actually have two, so I'll be quick. Where can I find sage in the Calgary area? I was under the impression that you should gather sage yourself. My second question is, can you redo a smudge if I did it incorrectly the first time? Those are my questions. Thank you.
Good questions, Gretchen. Yes, you can gather smudge by yourself. I gather it all the time. You can gather it with other people as well if you're taking your family. You can find it almost anywhere, on Nose Hill, out in open land usually. The difficulty is a lot of people don't like you gathering if it's in a park and that kind of thing. I have my own places that I gather in farmland. You might want to ask someone if you can gather sage out in the country. It literally grows everywhere. It even grows in the ditch. So I guess knowing what sage is would be the question. I know we have sage at Writing Symbols Lodge. Maybe we can take a picture of it and put it up online for you so you can actually see what it is you're picking. But it has a very, very unique smell to it as well. And when you take the leaves and you rub it in a ball and you smell it, it has a very unique smell to it. So we don't have smell-o-vision yet. So that's the difficulty that we have. If you do something incorrectly, Gretchen, you just take a breath, come down in your spirit, and you say, I'm going to just correct that and do it again. That's how we would do it. We're not perfect, and so we have to be able to tell people that we're offering that correction to do it correctly, and all is forgiven, right? If it were so easy, if people said, let me make that correction because I said something incorrect to you, it makes life much better. You feel better, so does the plant. So yes, by all means, if you have to start all over again and offer a correction or say, oh, I forgot this, I offer that correction, that is perfectly okay to do. So hopefully that answered some of your questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kerrie. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. If not, I can get the ball rolling just from some questions from our registration. We did have a question about who can pick sage according to cultural protocol. So is there someone that is allowed to versus someone who should not be picking sage?
That's a good question too. So when you're picking medicines, we're human beings, remember that? We all need things from Mother Earth. So anybody can pick, but you have to pick it in the right way. The difference is that if you are not Indigenous and if you do not have the teachings, you do not teach how to pick sage. You would have to have an elder that is with you. You can do that with your family. Yes, you can teach your family how to pick sage once you have learned. But the teaching of picking medicines, the teachings of our songs, the singing of our songs are only done by Indigenous people that have the rights to them. Because even if we're Indigenous, doesn't mean we have the rights to do certain things. So by all means, anybody can pick sage if you know how to do it properly. My little granddaughters pick sage and they know how to offer the prayers, and they put that tobacco down right beside me, and they pick that sage. So it's something that as a mother, if you have children, you can certainly teach them. But if you are working with a group of people, you would have an elder or a knowledge keeper that has the teachings about sage to actually teach you that. So hopefully that answers your question. That's a good one.
Thank you, Kerrie. Just a quick question as well. Is picking sage, is that a gendered activity or is that, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Different people have different views about that. I know that in the Blackfoot territory, the Blackfoot men often go picking sage, but it's the women and children who pick it. They don't necessarily pick it. They also light the sage often, the men, for the women, but that's changing too. In the Cree way, it's only women and children that pick the sage, and the male children must be under the age of 12. So we gather sage. That's a woman. It's called women's business, and we go gathering that sage. We bring it back to our homes. We lay it to dry, and then we give it to the men to use. The men use it, but we are the ones that bring those values into that medicine, and we dry it for them. And when they ask, we give them that sage to use in their own ceremony. But it's different in every culture. So I do know here in the Calgary Treaty 7 territory, there are men that pick the sage, and often the men will light it. But I'm hearing that that the men are not doing that anymore. Rose Crowshoe is saying no, she lights her own sage now. So that's a good thing, I guess, right? So thank you.
Wonderful. So I have one question, or actually two questions from Stacy, and then I do see Lindsay. So I'll ask Stacy's questions first, and then Lindsay, I'll get to you. So a question from Stacy is, are we able to grow our own sage? And then also, what's the reasoning behind picking it with our hands rather than using scissors to gather sage?
That's a good question too. So a lot of people do grow their own sage. I know elders that do. They actually take the sage from the wild and they plant it. But here's the evidence-based research on that, not just the spiritual. Okay, we know that as soon as you take something from its family, it starts to lose the energy that it carries. And botanists will tell you that even when they take great care to take the whole plant back to their laboratories and their greenhouses, the medicine that they found in the wild when they tested it it had dropped to 50% by the time they used it. So you certainly are welcome to grow the sage in your gardens and wherever you might do it. But it really, you have to make sure that you talk to that sage very carefully and say, I have to bring you home with me in order to plant you, because you're going to be taking it from its family. And so you have to be very, very careful about that, because maybe its mother won't allow you to take it, right? And then they will go into trauma. Just remember this thing. Remember that anything you take from the roots goes into trauma. That includes children, that includes plants. Okay, so, excuse me. My feeling about that is, don't take it by the roots. You might want to take the seed and try and plant it that way. You could do it that way, but we don't have a lot of success with that. What was the other question you were asking me in there?
The other question was, is there a reasoning as to picking it with our hands as opposed to scissors?
Yeah, so we use everything from the earth. We don't shake hands with a scissor, right? We touch. So the touch is very important to that plant. Remember, we are very holistic in the way we do things. So we need to smell you. We need to hear you. We need to see you. We need to touch you. And the plant is exactly the same way. So we do not use scissors to cut the plants. My grandmother used to use a little knife, but the knife was actually elk antler. And some medicines they use to take the root. But sage, we do not, we only use our hands. It's as if that baby is going from the mother's arms to our arms. So that is why we don't use things which are not, that don't have our energy in them. That mother wants to know, when she is letting you take her children, that you're going to do so with your loving heart and spirit. So, any other questions?
I do have a raised hand from Lindsay. So Lindsay, I'll unmute you and you can go ahead and ask your question to Kerrie.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kerrie. 2 questions. It doesn't matter what type of dish or bowl that you use when you light the sage. And if you are unable to go and select your own sage from nature, is it as effective to purchase sage, dried sage from a store or not?
So I would say no, you don't purchase medicines. We trade medicines. So you don't purchase it. You have no idea who touched it or picked it. That's the whole point. On occasion, people give me medicine that they have bought. I smudge it like crazy and honor it to try and bring its spirit back to life, because that can't be a very good experience. As far as what we use for our ceremonies, everything we use comes from the earth. Okay, so you can use virtually anything if it comes from the earth. I'm using a shell. You can use a wooden bowl with sand in the bottom so you don't burn it. We also use an iron frying pan. You'll see elders that carry them around, the little weenie ones, because it's iron from the earth. So sometimes I use a grandfather. I don't have a bowl with me, so I will find a nice flat rock. The rocks are what we call the grandfathers and the grandmothers, and that's where I will burn the sage. So you can use whatever comes from the earth, pottery, pottery bowls as well, as long as it comes from the earth, then you can use it.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your question, Lindsay. I have Jill as well to ask a question. So Jill, you can go ahead and answer your question to Kerrie, or ask your question to Kerrie, sorry.
Hello, this is Jill, and I'm going to put my video because Hanan is here and she wanted to say hi. And she, yeah, she actually, I just wanted to share that she actually picked sage. That I didn't even know until like we saw a picture, and I said, okay, Hannah naturally gravitated to it. My question is, because I know you had mentioned about offering the sage plant tobacco. Where can we get this tobacco? I mean, I know cigarettes, but I mean, yeah, I just wanted to know where we could do it so we can honor the practice. Well, thank you.
So you can buy tobacco. You can grow your own tobacco, which is really not like the tobacco that you would purchase in a store. It's kinnikinnick and a combination of different things that we smoke in our pipes. But you can use any kind of tobacco because it is called tobacco. So you can use a cigarette even. So you take a cigarette and you take the tobacco out of the casing, and that's what you would use. To buy a pouch of tobacco, you usually have to buy them at a garage now. They don't sell them in a lot of places. They used to sell them everywhere. But if you wanted to buy tobacco in a pouch, which is very expensive, by the way, you would take maybe a handful of tobacco out, and you would offer it to Mother Earth so that you could keep the rest. So you can get it at a garage, or you can buy it at specialty shops. Excuse me. You can buy it. People can share it with you. I know that we've been accepting tobacco virtually, and a lot of times we say, please leave it in your agency for people who may need this. So yeah, anywhere. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much, Del, for your question. There's 2 more questions just from the registration, and this does go till 10:30. So if anybody did want to ask anything, there's still plenty of time, but if not, we can always end this a little bit early. First question is, are there any stories that we can tell like young children about sage picking, or yeah, I guess the cultural protocol around sage picking for children?
There are lots of storybooks out there. I can't think of any offhand, but really, if you're teaching a story to a child, you just tell them that the plants and the animals are there to help us, and we're there to help them, and that they all grow in families. So what I tell my little grandchildren when they like to pick wildflowers and bring them to me, the first story I told them was, I say, take me to where you found her, and they take me to this beautiful group of flowers, and I say, you see all of those flowers? That's her family, and it's such a beautiful family. And I said, you brought me one of the children, which is wonderful, and I thank you for that. But if you take her from the roots, she won't see her family anymore. And my children are like, oh my heavens. And I say, that's okay. We ask forgiveness, and we're going to put tobacco down there. And we're going to say to the mother, we'll care for her. So that's what I tell children, because children want to bring you wildflowers all the time. And so I tell that story when I go walking with them, that they want to pick medicine, because even flowers have medicine. If you want to pick medicine, you always offer tobacco. Excuse me. So just tell them that story, that they grow in families, just like us. Any other questions?
Yes, there's one more, and thank you for explaining that. We have just one more question. Does the name sage for humans, is there any cultural significance, or is there any particular meanings attached to naming someone sage?
Well, sage comes from the earth, and we think of her as a female plant. So I know people named sage, right? So to name something after a plant, you're going to carry the qualities of sage, which is very much about respect and love. And each medicine carry values just like we do as human beings. Remember that. So we get named after our aunts or our mothers because we love our aunts and mothers and the qualities they have. Well, we love the qualities of the plants too. I know somebody whose name is Corn, and she lives down in the Navajo area. And naming a child corn, they use corn as part of their smudge. So, the significance is that when we name somebody from the earth, we're taking the qualities of that plant with us. So that's a good thing. A name is just a name, right?
Yeah, awesome, Kerrie. Thank you. What I can do is I'll just kind of put a last call out there for questions. And then if not, we can, oh, Jared has a question. I'll go ahead and Jared, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry. I'm still figuring out Zoom. Tansei, Kerrie.
How are you, Jared? Nice to hear you.
I am feeling much better than before. Thank you for
Oh,
asking.
good, good.
My question was, and I'm sorry if it was answered already, I was late. If you're gifted sage that was picked by the root, what is best to do with it? Please.
Well, I do ceremony, and actually that's a good question, Jared, because that's exactly what happened in an agency. In one of the agencies that I actually work with, one of the Indigenous women noticed that all of this beautiful sage was lying out to dry with the roots. And when she walked in that room, she said it was like a knife stabbing her in her heart. And she said she couldn't catch her breath. And she said, "My heavens, who picked this sage?" And they said, "Well, we did." And she said, "But you picked it by the roots." And they went, "We're not supposed to pick it by the roots." So they made everybody leave the area. They called in an elder and they did a complete ceremony over that sage because, I mean, they had done something very inappropriate. And they used that sage afterwards, but every time they used it, they made a correction. And they said, "We picked you with the root, and we ask, we know that you carry such goodness. We ask that you still offer it to the children," and we used it with the children only, because children are always about forgiveness. And so, Jared, you may not be able to do that with an elder, but you yourself, you lay it all out and you smudge it and you bless it and you thank it. And you would put it away, you would give it to children, maybe into a school or something like that. You're at Writing Symbols Lodge, so maybe you need to put it into a bag for children only, and that's how it could be used. So you would make that correction or I could do it for you when I come to Writing Symbols Lodge, and actually do that ceremony. So thank you for asking. That's a really important one, because why pick things if you're not going to pick them correctly? Why pick things if you're not going to use them, right? That's the other thing. Please only take what you need. Leave the rest, please. So thank you.
Thank you, Kerrie. That was really good to know and to learn. Is there anybody else who has any other questions that you'd like to ask? There's no right or wrong question. Feel free to put your hand up. If not, I'll maybe leave about 5 minutes, but while we do that, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming and for being so patient as we work out, our technical difficulties. It's so hard to connect these days when we don't have, our face-to-face contact, which I don't know about anybody else, but for myself, I miss it so much. So I do really appreciate everyone's patience with us as we work through this together. And again, thank you so much, Kerrie, for taking so much time out of your day to share this information with us. Marla, did you have any questions or anything like that?
No questions right now, but I would like to thank all of you for joining us. This is the first, of course, due to COVID, we had to do virtually. This is the first time, so like Laura mentioned, sorry for the audio. It does happen. I'd like to thank Kerrie very much for everything. Can't wait to meet you in person. I would like to thank all of you for joining us and being patient with the technical difficulties. And I wish you all well, stay safe, and yeah, have a good day.
I did see a question from looks like Deborah in the chat. So she wasn't able to answer this before, or ask this before. So what should we tell people who purchase these medicines or purchase like those sage bundles? Do you have any answers or recommendations for something like that?
Well, of course, I tell people not to purchase them. Although some people that are picking medicines in a good way will take money from you, but I want to know where those medicines come from. So I tell people I wouldn't purchase things anywhere because you don't know where they come from. Remember something. This is important to remember. Human beings are just another species on Mother Earth. So if somebody purchased you, what would you think of that? If somebody said to you, will you come with me and offer your teachings and your gifts to my people? How would you feel about that? There's a tremendous difference. We do not treat medicines, which are all things on Mother Earth. We think we're medicine too. Remember that. We carry good things within us. So remember that you need to pick them yourself or go to an elder and ask. And usually you would give a gift to an elder because remember, elders are often very poor. So maybe you would want to offer them something like print because print is something that they use. You would always offer them tobacco. You would maybe offer them chocolate. I'm saying that because I love chocolate, by the way. I know people that give coffee and things because they know the elder loves coffee. I know somebody that used to give an old elder, whenever they asked for medicine, they always brought him socks because he never had socks, and he was always so grateful for the socks he got. So we give something in exchange for things, and we don't know where things come from if you're purchasing them. So you think of medicine as human beings. How would you treat that medicine if somebody was selling something to you and that medicine is like this? Remember, that medicine, whenever you pick it, if it wasn't picked in the right way, it goes into trauma, just like human beings. And we don't know about that medicine, right? I always pray over things like that because I'm like, I don't know where you come from. I hope you were picked in the right way, but let me offer my love and kindness to you, right? So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. We had one more question from Jer in the chat here. Hi, Kerrie. What is the science behind smudging with sage?
Well, there's a lot of science around it, evidence-based research. So what I teach people all the time is that if we're going to work on parallels here and really understand what we're doing as Indigenous people, what we know, and I'm a psychotherapist as well, so I can speak to this. We know that the smell of sage actually creates chemicals or neurotransmitters that are released into our body that make us feel relaxed and good. We know that. Just like all smells do, right? We know that evidence-based research shows us that sage actually carries certain certain things within it, which will help with coagulation of blood, for example, which would help calm your brain down. So each medicine has its own gifts as well. But here's the other evidence-based research for why we use sage. We are using sage because it is a cultural way of doing things. Indigenous people don't do mindfulness or meditation, although both of those create the similar process of what sage does. We are going to use what is familiar to us and what works for us. So mindfulness might work for some Indigenous people very well, but we use the cultural ways that we have to calm us down and bring us down into our spirit. So what we know through evidence-based research is that when you take that breath and you breathe in a smell that feels really safe to you, you automatically come out of your survivor brain, which is fight, flee, and freeze, and you drop into your prefrontal cortex, which is where you think. So when people have trauma, They can't get into the prefrontal cortex. And so we don't begin with, what's wrong with you? You need to calm down. We smudge. And as soon as we smudge and get people to breathe, that's the aromatherapy, what happens is they start to drop down into their spirit, where they carry their values, where they find their peace. You don't find that up here, you find it here. So the parallel word to spirituality would be grounding or stabilization. And those are words that people might understand a little bit more. So there's a lot of evidence-based research around why we smudge, why we do it that way. It's how we begin everything. Because if people are, you can't start anything. You have to have people here. So this is our way of doing it. In order to bring us down into our spirit so that we feel safe enough to talk, enough to think, and we do it in a respectful, loving, compassionate way. So thank you. That was a very good question to ask me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for asking that question, Jer. I don't see any more questions or any hands up in the chat. So I think what we could do is we could end this. And thank you everyone for sharing so many kind messages in our chat window. And thanking Kerrie for taking so much time out of her day to share this knowledge with us. And thank you, Kerrie, as well, for taking this time. I think we can definitely end today early, and we'll carry this knowledge with us into the rest of our day and into our lives. If anyone wishes to unmute themselves and voice your thanks, feel free. And then maybe around 10:20, I will end the webinar.
Thank you so much, Laura, and everyone. Take care of yourselves. Find the love today. Breathe the air. Talk to the plants and animals. Sometimes they're the only ones that are there to listen. And recognize that we will get through this COVID. That is the biggest thing. And you just need to know that we will get through it. So in the meantime, find your purpose and keep at it. Don't worry about, the work that you're doing. The work that you're doing is important for the world, just like the work the plants do, right? So know that people love you. I do. And that I'm there to help you at Writing Symbols Lodge and other places that you can find me. And I just wish you all the best this year. It's going to be okay. We're here to help each other. So thank you for listening.